We just think, okay, I want to do absolutely anything I can to be a principal dancer and to get into a company. But let's not forget that sometimes people get that and they don't thrive. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Confident Dancer YouTube channel. I'm Kirsten, and also, if you didn't catch this in the last video, remember that you can now listen to these videos in podcast format. So you can click the link down below to go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts and listen to the Confident Dancer podcast here. I'm also going to probably upload some audio files from my former YouTube videos or past YouTube videos and put them on the podcast so you can re-listen in podcast format instead of just on YouTube if that's something that you want. I've gotten that request for years, so just letting you know that is now available. Today I'm going to talk about what a healthy dance life balance actually can look like. I'm not going to talk specifically about things like a healthy dance life balance looks like taking this much time off a week and drinking your lemon water in the morning. What I'm going to share with you are general principles that you can use as a guide, because I want to fully acknowledge every single one of you watching or listening is your own unique human being. You are special, you are different, you are unique. In case no one's told you that today, here I am telling it to you. We all have different needs. We all have different goals, even if we think they're the same, like, oh, I want to be a professional dancer. We all have different paths and like things that are important to us. And we're all going through different seasons of our lives. Maybe you are training seriously. Maybe you're going through an injury right now, so you can't train all the time. Maybe you're a professional dancer. We're all in different spots. So I want to share with you some guiding principles that can help you determine what a healthy dance life balance looks like for you, okay? So without further ado, let's get into these 5 points. I have 5 points for you today. So the first guiding principle here in determining what a healthy dance life balance can look like for you is making sure that you are generally using flexible thinking versus rigid thinking. Psychological flexibility versus rigidity is a really, really important concept to understand, because rigid thinking is often associated with higher levels of stress, anxiety, and even depression statistically. Just so you're clear on what each of those means and what it looks like, rigid thinking is really black and white thinking. It tends to be very simplistic, and generally, not always, but generally, it leans towards being fear-based. For example, that might look like saying it is good to dance every day, and it is bad to take a break. That's a really obvious and extreme example of rigid thinking, but to show you how it also shows up in very nuanced ways is also, let's say in our dance training, we tend to say, let's say it is bad to not get into all of the programs you want. Well, okay, of course that's not desirable. Like, you want to get into the programs you desire, or you want to get into your dream company, but adding more flexibility into this, flexibility is pretty simple. It is the way it sounds. It is acknowledging the nuance and the gray that is inherent in life. Life isn't necessarily just black and white. Like, oh, if this approach to training works for someone else, that means it's good because it made them successful, so I should do it. Maybe not. Maybe you're different. Maybe your needs and goals and desires and lifestyle are different. Incorporating flexibility into deciding how you want to live your life in a balanced way is so healthy and important, because you could say, okay, I am tempted to train as much as physically possible because it makes me feel more secure, like I'm doing absolutely everything I can to accomplish my professional goals. Maybe that way of thinking served you for a time, but you're starting to get burnt out, stressed, overwhelmed, and injured. All right, incorporate more flexibility into that. Like, for example, thinking, okay, training is generally helpful, but there is a point to which there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. So what could it look like for me to live in a little bit more of that gray area and listen to my body, my mental needs, my emotional needs, and listen to some of those cues, like, are you getting exhausted? Are you getting uninspired? Are you feeling like you're just going through the motions in your training? Okay, well, instead of just practicing rigid thinking, like, okay, well, more is better and I don't want to fall behind, so I need to keep going. That's rigid. Come back to flexibility. Come into maybe asking yourself questions like, what are some of the signs internally that I'm doing too much? What are the unpleasant internal experiences you are experiencing? And you can ask yourself, is it worth it to me to train that much if it's making me feel uninspired, like I'm going through the motions, tired, in physical pain? Okay, so flexibility is really, really helpful. Like even flexibility with yourself in the different seasons you go through during the year. There are times when it's really a time to push, and there's a time where it's time to kind of lean back a little bit and maybe on a break, instead of, continuing to just grind all the time and do your Pilates every single day, maybe you have an opportunity to practice resting, even if that's uncomfortable for you. So flexibility can look like not only flexibility in the way you think and the way you judge what you do, but also flexibility in what you actually do, allowing change to come in when appropriate. The second guiding principle to help you live a more balanced life as a dancer is taking action based in trust and alignment with what's truly important to you instead of just fear. I will also add, it is so important to think more long-term as a dancer rather than just short-term. Now, there's some flexibility in that too. As a coach, I work with a lot of dancers who are thinking so long-term. They're thinking about the future they want to have as a professional dancer, and they're constantly judging everything they're doing now. Like, is it going to get me there? Is it going to get me there? And yet they're completely denying their own needs and struggles they're experiencing in the moment that are a sign that something's not working for them right now in the short term. So, practice knowing yourself, self-awareness. With this point, maybe for you, you do need to think a little bit more short-term and pay attention to your mind and body signals right now, or needs you're having that are coming up for you right now. But when I say long-term thinking, I am encouraging a sustainable mindset, like asking yourself, what actions and approach to my life and training will help me have a sustainable life and career in the long run? I mean, protecting yourself physically, being physically healthy and strong, having emotional and mental health and well-being, also thriving personally. Your thriving is important. Sometimes we just think, okay, I want to do absolutely anything I can to be a principal dancer and to get into a company. But let's not forget that sometimes people get that and they don't thrive. So you get to discover what thriving looks like for you. So anyway, back to the point. I want to encourage you when you're thinking about, okay, how am I going to approach my training this year? What do I want to accomplish in my dancing? And even in the day-to-day things that you're telling yourself to do, how often do you do things because you just think, I have to, I should, I can't slack off, I can't take a break? Hearing yourself say things like should, have to, can't, must, those aren't necessarily all bad, because sometimes we do, if we want a certain goal. It's kind of like if you want to get into a summer program, you do have to audition for that, right? So not all statements like this are unhelpful. Look at me practicing flexibility. However, these are terms to look out for in yourself, because they do sometimes point to how we are being guided by a sense of obligation, or just doing what other people say is good, or at worst, being guided by fear. And a great way to ask yourself, are you determining what you want to do based off of the fear you're experiencing? A great way to determine that is to notice what you're telling yourself you have to do, or you should do, or where you should be right now in your technical level or whatever. Ask yourself, okay, well, if I didn't do or have that thing, what do I think would happen? Almost always a fear will come up, and that does allow us to know ourselves and see, okay, I actually am being guided a lot more by fear than I thought. So instead, ask yourself, okay, what do I genuinely want to do? And what is motivating that decision? Is it based off of what's really important to me and what I really want? Am I also taking action based off of trust in myself and the process, or am I taking a ton of action just based off of fear because I think I'm not good enough? And by the way, that is a huge thing that I help dancers with in my Confident Dancer coaching program. I really help dancers go into that inner work to heal those deeper levels of fear, insecurities, negative beliefs about themselves, imposter syndrome, whatever it is that's causing you to constantly act out of fear. Maybe it's also people pleasing, like you rely a lot on external validation. So you're like, I have to do X, Y, Z and look like this so that people are happy with me. That's really what I love helping dancers resolve in one-on-one coaching. So if that's something you're interested in, you could click the link down below to learn more and reach out to inquire about working together. But yeah, for anybody, I think it's great to just start to be aware of that and ask yourself like, okay, am I being guided by my values? Or is my life being lived based off of fear? The third guiding principle is asking yourself what you want, what you think, what you feel, and what you need. Okay, I say this because yes, I am a firm believer in learning from people who are older and wiser and who have maybe gone down the path that you want to go down. In all areas of my life, I personally love receiving counsel and mentorship. I love that. However, it is still so important to not use that as a crutch to avoid knowing yourself, knowing what you think, knowing what you want. It is amazing. I talk to so many dancers who, like, I think it's quite common, especially in the pre-professional and professional ballet world, to have your life and your thoughts and your feelings be so dictated by what someone else says is good or bad, or what someone else thinks, or what someone else feels towards you. It's like, oh, if they don't like my dancing, I should find something wrong with it and fix it. You know, it's like we can be so governed by these external factors. And so this point is really about checking in with yourself, noticing maybe when a teacher makes a comment towards you, and ask yourself, okay, what do I want to take from that that's helpful? Do I agree with them? I'm not promoting being disrespectful by any means, but sometimes we have teachers that say, I mean, I've had this in my experience, really inappropriate things. Or we have peers that seem to look the way that we want to look. And honestly, they might have like really unhealthy patterns around eating or their body image. And we think, oh, well, I want to look like them, so I should do that. Again, we're like externalizing our choices. Someone else thinks this, so I should think this. Someone else feels this towards me, so I feel this. Someone else does this and they have what I want, so I should do that. So this point is all about asking yourself, whoa, 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 what do I think? What do I want in my life? How do I want to feel as I dance? What are my bigger goals? And what can I do to help myself get there? What action would I personally want to take, find helpful, and be willing to take instead of just always looking to someone else to tell you what to do? The fourth thing is addressing yourself as a whole person, not just a dancer. When you're asking yourself like, okay, what are my goals this year and what do I need, right? Or like, even if you're checking in with yourself on a daily, weekly basis, so often we live our lives and our thoughts and feelings are dictated based off of our life and goals as dancers, how we want to dance, whose approval we want, what roles we want, what program we want to get into, what role or promotion we want to get in our company. We can prioritize our lives, our dance lives, so much that we even organize our life outside of dance in order to fully serve our life as dancers. I can tell you that because I lived that life for more years of my life than not. That's not all bad necessarily, because I do completely understand that from the outside, maybe from a non-dancer's perspective, our lives will look quite imbalanced. And if you want to do this as a career, it does consume a lot more of your life than maybe a job where you kind of clock in, clock out, even if you're working the same hours. Even though, yeah, maybe we won't have an equal time living our lives outside of our dance life versus in our life as dancers. Like, maybe balance doesn't look like spending the same amount of hours reading as dancers or going to parks because you feel like it instead of being in technique class. But it is so important to check in with yourself as a whole person. Ask yourself, what would make me thrive this year as a person? Or what would make me thrive as a whole person in the way I approach class? Check in with yourself as a whole person instead of just living your whole life to serve the dancer part of you. The last point in building a healthy dance life balance is prioritizing rest and, most of all, trust in your process. Rest, I don't think it always looks like having a day off. Sometimes we can approach our work and our training as dancers from a place of internal rest. And I'm not saying like chilling out or laziness. What I mean is like an ability to rest in the amount of trust that you have in yourself and in your process. And if you're a person of faith, like I am, like trust in God too. If that's a part of your life, I absolutely recommend leaning into that. Like no matter what it is that you want to find trust in, be a person who rests in the trust of their lives and their process, okay? And that is going to help you so much with the points I mentioned about not living out of fear or obligation or doing things because other people are doing it. I cannot tell you how much that personally benefited me in my own life as a dancer, especially when I was gearing up for company auditions. It just felt like during that time, it was so easy to live in a lot of fear and stress. And that season where I was graduating from college and about to audition and hopefully make it into a company, which thank God I did, I really accredit my success to the amount of trust I had during that time. I decided I was not going to audition from a place of fear. I was going to do it from a place of deep, deep, deep trust. Was I perfect at this? No, no one is. I had moments of fear like anybody, but that was the overall tone that I set for my audition season, and I cannot tell you how well it served me, so I want to give that to you as well. So dancers, I hope you really enjoyed this. Again, if you're interested in getting help resolving some of the mental blocks or mental challenges you've been going through that have been creating a lot of fear or stress or insecurity for you that's holding you back in your dancing and your well-being, definitely feel free to reach out. I not only have one-on-one coaching available, but also now an online course available if you prefer to transform in a self-paced way. But yeah, no matter if you work with me or continue to enjoy my YouTube videos, I hope that I encourage you. So that's it. Thank you for watching or listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.